today in algebra we learned about the slope formula. On Friday we learned how to do this by counting. Today we're going to learn what to do if we're given the numbers and we want to avoid graphing. So we're going to use this formula, which is m, which stands for slope, equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And that is where our points are x1, y1 and x2, y2 are two given points. Basically, think of it like this. You already know about x and y being together. The pairs are always x and then y coordinate. The 1s are a family and the 2s are a family. If I plug them into this formula, I do y2 minus y1, so this number minus this number over this number minus this number. It'll just take some memorizing to get this formula down, but you already know this piece right here, and if you label, that should be pretty easy for you. We're going to look at several examples of different kinds of problems that we could see. So starting with number 1, we have 4, negative 2, and negative 1, 2. If we label them as x1, y1, and x2, y2, this is my group of 2s, this is my group of 1s, and plug them into my formula, I get 2, because that's our y2, minus negative 2, because that's our y1, over negative 1 minus 4. Then I will start to just compute this. Just do the top first, and negative negative makes a positive, so that's 4 over negative and negative make negative 5. So that's 4 over negative 5. Just so you know, that's the same as negative 4 over 5, where the negative's on top. And the reason I show you that is because that's how we graphed it when we did down 4 and over 5. So just in case, that's just saying the same thing. Let's look at another example. Negative 2, negative 2, and 7, negative 2. Okay, if we label everything, we have x1, y1, x2, y2. We're going to plug that into our formula. So we have negative 2 minus negative 2, 7 minus negative 2. Change those negative negatives to positive. We have negative 2 plus 2, which is 0, over 7 plus 2, which is 9. And 0 over anything is 0. And so my slope for that one is 0. Example 3. What about if we have one like this? 3, 4, and 3, negative 1. We have x1, y1, x2, y2. We always want to start by labeling, so it's easier when we plug it in. We're going to do negative 1 minus 4 over 3 minus 3 right here. And that's negative 5 over 3 minus 3, which is 0. And anytime we have 0 on the bottom, you should remember from Friday, the answer is that the slope is undefined. Also, you'll remember that if it has a slope that's undefined, it's a vertical line. So I want you to be sure you're connecting these ideas here. If it has a 0 slope, the line is horizontal. Slope, again, is talking about the steepness of the graph, the rise over the run. Think of it also like this. Notice when we've done it, our y things have been on top, and that's our rise, our up and down, like the y-axis. We talk about the run, that's our side-to-side, or horizontal, like our x-axis. Let's look at two more examples. This one I want to do with you has fractions. It's 3/4, 7/5, and 1/4, 2/5. And so if I plug that into my formula, I have m equals, and this is my y2, 2/5, minus 7/5. I didn't label this time, but I could, and I would get the exact same things, over 1/4 minus 3/4. Let me caution you, at first you'll want to label every single time so that you don't mess something up. Eventually you'll get real used to this and it'll be just as easy to do it without the labeling. But for now, let's do it. Here we have 2/5 minus 7/5. They have a common denominator of 5, so I can just do 2 minus 7, which is negative 5 over 5. And on the bottom I have 1 minus 3, which is negative 2 over 4. I can reduce both of those fractions. Negative 5 over 5 is the same as saying negative 1. Negative 2 over 4 is the same as negative 1/2. And if I plug all this into my calculator right here, be sure you put the bottom in parentheses, I will get my answer, which is positive 2. And so my slope is 2. If you want to talk more about that at some other point, we can, why that comes out that way, but for now I would just use my calculator. The last example today is from the points 2, 3, and 4, 5. And I want to show you on this one that it really doesn't matter which group you label your 2s or your 1s. It's going to come out the same way as long as the 1s stay together and the 2s stay together. I like you to think of that as just like a family. They stay together, okay? On this one, if I do x1, y1, x2, y2, the traditional way we've been doing all along. Then I'm going to find my slope of 5 minus 3, because that's y2 minus y1, over 4 minus 2. 4 minus 2. Okay, now I can do 5 minus 3, which is 2, over 4 minus 2, which is 2, and 2 over 2 is 1. So my slope here is 1. Let's check what happens if I switch my pairs. So I'm going to make this my 2's, x2, y2. Notice the family stayed together. I'm going to make this group my 1's, x1 and y1. My groups stay together. There's always an x and a y. If I plug them in now, this is my y2, so I'm going to do 3 minus y1, which is 5, over 2 minus my x1, which is 4. And if I work that out, 3 minus 5 is negative 2, 2 minus 4 is negative 2, and negative 2 over negative 2 is 1. So my answer was the same, which confirms it doesn't matter which group you label which, as long as you stick to the formula, the x and y in each pair, and the family stays together. The assignment on this is A11, and it's a worksheet. I'll be happy to get that for you when you get back to class.